So, I hope you're having a good morning, and I hope this the kidney breathing practice from yesterday was useful. Today's day 2 of my 14-day unchallenge. Uh, and it's an unchallenge for nourishment, essentially, is the way I'm thinking about this. Little bits of information. This morning's video might be just a little bit short. I gotta scoot off and go teach my one public class that I still teach every week. It's at Tuesdays from 9:30 to 11. So those of you who live in Asheville, you're always welcome to join me. It's at the Grove Park Inn. Okay, so yesterday we talked about the kidney breathing, and we did this from the side and sort of feeling each kidney and noticing if there was something different. Somebody left in the comments, I'm sorry, I don't remember who, that she does this practice from child's pose. And yeah, of course, kidney breathing is great to do from child's pose. One of the reasons I like it on the side is that you can focus on, individually on the kidneys and get a sense if there's any difference between them with the breath that can kind of tune you into some asymmetries in the system. So it's always nice to notice what's asymmetrical about your system. Most of us have asymmetries in our system. Okay. And when you notice those asymmetries, it's useful because then you can start to become more mindful of it, and through that mindfulness, start to make changes and either reduce the asymmetries, or be more functional about the way that you approach them, right? So if you're always putting your bag over the one side, you start to think about, oh, there's something asymmetrical. I can sometimes switch and start bringing more symmetry to my system. That's just an example. Okay, so today's topic is structural breath, which is quite different than the kidney breathing we were doing yesterday. I was teaching in Brazil last year, and I started to talk about how there were many different kinds of breathing, many different ways of breathing. That belly breath is just one way of breathing. For example, that sort of gets smeared across the yoga world as the way of breathing, And as I was giving this talk, a young man raised his hand, and he said, and then the interpreter, the translator, translated it for me. He said, I was brought up in a Buddhist monastery. I was like, who is this guy? I was brought up by Buddhist monks in a Buddhist monastery. And they told me that there are over 120 different ways of breathing. And I was like, yeah, that doesn't surprise me that somebody has identified more than 120 ways of breathing. I certainly don't know that, but I do know particularly from the work that I've done internally with breathing and also from all the studying I've done, that there are many different ways, and they have different physiological effects on the system. If you want more information, by the way, all of my 30-day pranayama challenge is on YouTube, so you can always go there and check out those short little small plate videos. So that being said, what is the application? What is the purpose and application of structural breath? So structural breath is particularly useful for training your breath to nourish your body, in whichever way that the body needs to be nourished, in an increasing energy way, or potentially in a reducing, relaxing way. And the reason is because we have both of those sides of the breath. We have the inhale, which creates an energizing effect, right? And then we have the exhale, which creates a lungana, or a reducing effect. And depending on where your focus is and what the asana is and how you're utilizing different ratios and different pauses in the breath, you can create a powerful physiologic effect on the system. Now, why is structural breath so useful for movement particularly? I'd like to show you something. You can do this with me. Breathe into your belly. So belly breath, we all know belly breath, right? Very soothing, calming to the system, particularly useful for things like anxiety. So breathing into the belly, right? Now, as you breathe into the belly, do that same breath, let your hands move out to the side. And just notice how that feels. Maybe let them move a little higher next time. breathing into the belly and noticing how that feels. Okay, now structural breath, we're going to do something different. We're going to inhibit the movement of the belly in the initial part of the inhale and let the ribs lift up off of the hips, right? The end of the inhale, you can let go of your belly. And then as you exhale, you engage your belly. So on the inhale, I wore a light colored shirt so you could see today. So on the inhale, that's the exhale, right? Try that with me again. Inhibit, release, and then exhale from here. So structural breath can take time. Don't get too frustrated. Review this video a couple of times if you want to learn it, okay? And now we're going to do the same thing with our hands. Inhibit the inhale here. Let it come into the chest and let your arms go out. I can't talk while I'm doing it, but you can watch. It's a very different experience. I learned that from my teacher. I learned this breath from my teacher, Gary Kraft, so it's very powerful. So very different experience to breathe into your belly and move your body as opposed to breathing up to the chest and move particularly your arms. There's things that go on with your legs too, but a little bit more, too much info for this video. So what we want to get into is this lifting the ribs up out of the hips on the inhale, releasing the belly at the end rather than releasing it at the beginning, and then exhaling from the lower belly, even the pelvic floor. The risk here is over breathing, either on your inhale or muscling your exhale too much. That's the risk. And for some people, that risk produces negative symptoms because they're really going for it, right? If you need to really go for it for a while to get the breath, I don't think that's a huge problem. But if you start to feel any of those symptoms, dizziness, vertigo, high blood pressure, red face, any of that sort of stuff, that it's an overbreathing symptom, right? So let's take this now, because we just have a couple minutes. Let's take this now down to the floor. And so you can, one of the reasons I like to teach structural breath here is because it just helps you to get more interoceptive, to be able to get more of that body awareness. So from lying on the floor and getting this idea of the breath lifting up, the ribs lifting up out of the hips on your inhale. And then from here on your exhale, from the lower abdomen, then start taking the movement in, right? So here's a couple of breaths. Arms lift up over the head. Breathing into the chest. Exhaling from the belly. And you are welcome to continue with that experiment today, with experimenting with structural breath and getting this idea of how the breath moves the limbs. That the breath lengthens the spine and moves the limbs and creates a nourishing state of physiology in the system. I got to run. Leave comments and questions, and I'll see you tomorrow for more small plates. Namaste.